So dunning, as I mentioned, it's a credit management procedure. When a customer is not paying its amount, let it be X amount of money within Y date, then the SAP creates a process to inform them and make them aware that, okay, there are unpaid bills or amounts there. Now, to do that dunning, it sends the reminders to the customers. Nothing else, it sends the reminder to the customer. Okay. And even if that is not possible, so finally, it will create a disconnection order. The disconnection order is the final step for a dunning procedure. If we proceed further, it will go to the legal cases and final recovery. So that's how it will happen, dunning. Now, to start a business partner, whether it is done or not, we need some details. So what are the details we need? A overdue receivable details, the consumption billing details, the budget billing details, the real property taxes, the trading taxes, parking fees, all those details we need. And we can apply the dunning in all these processes. So in our utility cases, it is the consumption billing, all the budget billing on which we can apply the dunning based on the overdue. Now, additional receivable, like if you apply a dunning, that means it is not yet paid. So we need to apply some dunning charges on top of that. Sometimes we apply the dunning interest as well, if it is more than a year or some particular time period based on the utility companies. Some companies apply the interest after 3 months, some companies after 6 months, some company after a year. So but based on that, we apply the dunning charges and dunning interest. But to procedures, how to determine the dunning procedure, the condition under which the business partner is to be done, and like as overdue payment is there, and what was done in this case. What was done means whether it is the dunning level 1, dunning level 2. So based on that label, we need to define. So what is the dunning procedure? If we define as a whole, a dunning procedure as a series of labels. And with each label, there are associated actions that are used to recover the debt. Now, these multi-labels, which are dunning in nature, that means each label will be higher than the previous label. The first label would be a reminder, second label would be a message, third label would be a harsh message. Like that, there will be multiple labels. Now, based on these customer category, we create these dunning procedures and dunning labels. A dunning procedure is assigned to a customer depending on the customer type, like contract account label, or depend on their previous experience. When the determining your dunning procedure, sorry, any questions?
Contract account level.
Yeah, we apply this dunning procedure at the contract account level. When we create the contract account, we are applying a dunning procedure there, and based on that dunning procedure, these labels will be activated. Yes.
Okay.
But like dunning procedure is just a name. Most of the stuff is done by two processes. One is dunning labels, other is dunning activities. So dunning label is in which label the process is, and dunning activities like what would be the activity, like whether we send a reminder letter, or we need to apply the interest, we need to apply over charges. So those are activities. So these two things will define the details. Then again, we'll put some actions like for prerequisites, whether based on the minimum amount or number of days in areas. So let it be somebody is not paid 5 rupees. So we apply the dunning. The answer mostly is no, because it's very less to apply the dunning, or we take some action. Or somebody has not paid 5 lakh rupees. Yes, it's a very good amount. Or somebody is not paid 500 crore rupees. So that is so high that that need to be dealt in a different manner, right? So based on the minimum and maximum amounts, we need to take the action. So action is, first action is notice, cancellation, disconnection, agreement. So those things we need to take as the action. And when we take the action, we also adding the charges. Now, when we define the dunning labels, the label may be 1, 2, 3 days. With the dunning label, we need to define after how many days this need to be applied. Okay, so one is the overdue date, under which we need to specify the areas after that we'll apply the areas. But what would be the label 2 when it will get activated? Let it be the first label is for late payment surcharges, which would be after 15 days. So after 14 days, when he didn't pay, on the 15th day, we executed the label 1 and automatically the late payment surcharges is applied. And it will wait for next 15 days to label 2 for 30 days. After 30 days, a letter automatically get generated and sent to the person. Now these dunning processes are getting created. When the dunning process is now started, automatically the credit worthiness of that person is decreasing. Okay, because he's not paying the amount within the time. Even if he not paid within 30 days, even if after the later, on 40th day, when we again re-execute, it will apply the dunning charges, and we can take some actions like disconnection or legal actions that will send a notice. So based on the contract accounts, we can create the labels, or we can create a procedure under which we have multiple labels. Okay. Now, what is the dunning frequency? So, like if somebody is given a time period to pay the amount within 10 days or something, then after 7 days or after the lapsing period, like here you can see in the configuration, we need to put some dates, which would be like here it is one month difference. So like that, you need to apply a lapse period after which the dunning procedure need to be executed. The dunning procedure mostly executed in a batch process. Okay, and it is only executed for the unpaid amount. If somebody is paid or some confirmation is given, then it will not get executed. So there are some examples of the action, type of dunning action. First one is notice. Second was the disconnection document. Then cancellation of their agreement, and finally uh, the credit worthiness score will be decreased or increased based on their activities. Okay, if they paid within time or they give a right excuse, then the credit worthiness score may increase. So you can see now the dunning, when we apply, it will go to the dunning procedure and dunning label 1. And dunning label 1, if it is on 20th of dunning activity, it will proceed like 9 days after the due date. So due date is on, let it be on 11. After that 9 days, it will activate. The second label, disconnection order, get generated after 21 days, right? So this is for a residential customer. For the industrial customer, it may be same here. They put the stuff same, but you can put different customer, different dunning procedure. Okay, here you can see the dunning limits more than 2,000, more than rupees 1, or more than limited infinity. So VIP or priority customer, they put a limit as infinity for dunning procedure. So any amount there will increase, and the area need to be added. So disconnection will not, disconnection order may get generated, but will go through the legal actions. Okay. Here in this case, disconnection will be applied even if ₹1 is pending. And in custom domestic, it is maximum up to 2,000 will wait, and then we'll proceed for the discrimination like that. So as in the diagram, in last diagram, we explained that the minimum and maximum amount and arrears, charges, interest, everything need to be applied based on the business partner and contract account, which is linked to the dunning labels, and dunning labels get generated based on their history. If they are not paid, the dunning procedure get generated, and each label we are adding something. And finally, a print notice we generated for the customer. Previously, these days, they generate the SMS or they generate the PDF emails also for the customers. So based on the open items, they do this and they keep all these details as dunning history, because it will impact your credit worthiness. Okay, dunning can be executed based on the date, because each date, the parameters it will check how many open items are there for which customer. So we can execute that based on the parameter, the dates and run ID. Apart from that, you can also put them in a pre-scheduled batch process. So it will activate automatically when the real time hits. Okay. But if you wrongly did some dunning and the payment came, you get that result. Similarly, the mass reversal also done for the dunning. Reversals, so I'm just stopping the dunning and put them into right process. So in a diagram, if we put the dunning processes, so in dunning processes, we have mostly first is days in areas. So how many days the areas are there? That is the first parameters for dunning process. Then the minimum and maximum amount, which would be the tolerance for the dunning. Then what are the dunning procedures? The dunning process under which the dunning labels would be there. Okay. And once we group the dunning labels and dunning procedure, we'll create a dunning grouping. And once that is done, then we generate the dunning process like frequency every day at the night this time, that frequency we put. And once all this stuff is done, it will impacting the credit worthiness. So these 6 parameters, if you understand correctly and configure correctly, your dunning process is over. So these are the configuration, how to define the dunning procedure, dunning activity, and dunning label. So in this also dunning, as I mentioned, finally we are sending the letters, print notifications. We need the smart forms to link to the dunning procedure. So when we generate this, it generates the letter and send automatically. Now you can see for that we have different T codes like FPVA, FPVB for dunning activity and dunning proposals. And when we print the notification, we have a separate T code like FPCO para, which generates the dunning notices. And it will go to the school. In school, it will get stored, and the credit worthiness score is impacted through a T code FPCR1. And if you need to see the history, so FEM3 is there for looking into the history. Mass reversal of dunning notices also can be done. Like once you get all this information, you can do the mass reversal FPGC. So these are the basic T codes for dunning. So when you execute, first the dunning procedure category mentioned, right, which is at the contract account level. And based on the procedure, we are processing, means the dunning execution is happening where we define the prerequisites of that person, like the parameters of that person, whatever given at the dunning execution. And from there, we identify the dunning activities, and then based on the scheduled, we are applying the charges on the dunning. This is the FICA dunning label details, where we are applying the dunning labels. And based on this configuration, everything will get executed, right? And here we have a charges mode as well. So as I mentioned, during the configuration, we can apply the charges, and based on the charges, when we execute the dunning process, it will automatically fetch those information and added to the dunning process, whether it's interest fee or process of the charges. So when we execute the dunning run, so what are the stuff and how we can execute? Okay. So before dunning run, we have some prerequisites. Okay. Generate the telephone list, request the cash security deposit. So all these things we need to collect the informations, the log details. And why we need all these details? Like if we generate a disconnection order, and we understand even if we generate a disconnection order, that amount is adjusted by the cash security deposit, so we'll not proceed for any other level like legal action or other stuff. So that's how we need to check the security deposit. Telephone list, like we need to inform them by IVR that, okay, your amount is not paid, can you pay? And if we get a response through the IVR that, okay, give me 5 days, give me 10 days or like that, based on that telephone request also, we our prerequisites get changed and log. Definitely log is the customers which are not yet paid. Then now we generate the print notice. Okay, the print dunning notice, a PDF document kind of stuff, and then dunning charges or interest, whatever I saw in last diagram, that we need to apply. Set a dunning block. Once dunning is applied, interest charges is applied, then we'll proceed further. And if there is some request, some bank is saying that no, put a lock, we should not apply more dunning on that, so we can put a lock. Or we find there is some influence coming from somewhere, so we can put a dunning lock. Okay. Then if everything is gone, nothing is working, then we generate a disconnection document to the field person who is at the field. We send them a disconnection document to disconnect the connection. Okay. And at the end, it will go to the collection agency. So like there is a third party. We need to collect the money and settlement need to be done. Okay. All these turning process can be done through a workflow as well. In workflow, where there will be persons who can give the authorization that can be set up in dunning procedure as well. So this how everything is there. You can see the interest key for a company code group, the interest key, the dunning, the interest key. Like if we create an interest key 1011, we can put here dunning balance, dunning label, everything need to be approved. So what is the dunning string? A additional receivable along with trigger a dunning activity. That means dunning charges, you can say that. Dunning balance. So the additional receivable includes when the determination dunning balance, like if something is left, on top of that also you can apply some interest or some other values. So that also you can tick mark here. And finally, the dunning labels, whether we go with the dunning labels or not. So those things are there. So this is simple additional rules we need to apply at the company code label and when we are applying the dunning configurations. So mostly dunning is done in, like as I mentioned, in 2 steps, FPVA and FPVB. FPVA is just collect all these due amounts and all the prerequisite. FPVB is to execute the activities. So dunning, as I mentioned, it's done by 2 steps, FPVA and FPVB. And dunning proposal, when we execute, it's take all these details like open items, minimum and maximum labels, the dunning labels and history of the dunning, requirement dunning labels, means which dunning need to be applied. So in the proposal run, which is FP, VA, and then it execute at the header label. Then header is FKK and then line items is space, put it to a table FKK and then it's go for the running label in running execution, where it will extract the contract account details and generate the notifications or notice for them. So once the notice get generated, we need to extract the correspondence. The correspondence address we are extracting from the business partner and apply that, and we'll send them. If it is for agent, we'll send to the agent. If it's a collection agency where we need to send to recover the amount, we'll send to the collection agency. It is totally based on the labels of activities and open items. And we'll put the interest charges and the extra value into a separate ledger. Okay. So these are the tables where you can see the dunning labels, dunning charges, activities, and the functional modules where you can enhance the dunning procedures. Whereas these are the standard tables for the dunning history and dunning line items history. Okay. So mostly it is a bit technical. If you need to add some kind of customization to the standard configuration, you can use this. Otherwise, applying the dunning labels and configuring the dunning labels will be enough. And when the activity need to be added, in that case, if you do some configuration, you need to add the dunning activity event, which is 350. So as I mentioned in FICA, we mostly use the event to modify some prerequisites or some customization we can do at the event level to control the processes. So all these events, which is 310, 320 to 390, everything is linked to the dunning process. Okay, then we keep all the data into history and check them for future. So this is the configuration for the dunning. We can see the configuration at the system level, and whatever we discuss, all these configuration, you can see everything is there. It's straightforward in nature, and you can do that. So one thing is that is called write-off. Okay, write-off is one of the process where what we do, we clear all the dunning. Okay, and we submit that file that, okay, this is write-off. Write-off means whatever the pending amount is, that amount is considered as paid, or you can see that amount the utility company is not expecting. So they write off, they clear that general ledger. If the write-off happen, okay, in that case, we need to release manually, okay, most of these accounts. Okay, but if the amount is very high, in that case, we need to do some what we call some customization to release them all. So the status, once it is write-off, the status, you can DFKK, COLL, those line items need to be cleared. And when this write-off action is done, and afterwards the dunning procedure need to be executed and send that write-off details to the agent, collective agents and other people that, okay, look, the amount is write-off now, you need to stop whatever the actions you need to take, or whatever the amounts are open, those needs currently closed. So that files need to be go to the agencies, right? So that's write-off is one of the action which will stop the dunning procedure, and it will close the dunning process and resettle everything. Okay, so you can see the write-off, how it's happened when there is some amounts are there, and we are expecting some amount, bank cleared that amount. We say that it's clear, it's write-off. And the agencies also understand it is clear, they put the amounts and they clean them up. So Once all these write-off happen, everything is done, we need to send a letter to the customer. Okay. And they also, uh, if they paid through the bank as well and everything is cleared, still then we send a letter to the customer like, look, your dunning program, your warning is over now. You are now a common customer and you will be into the periodic cycle again. So that later need to be sent to the customer at the end of the running process. Once the payment is done and they bring back into the track. Okay, sometime it happened that you send some file, but afterwards you will collect huge amount of money after a single day, after some hours. Okay, and by that time the letter is already gone to the agency. It may be a bank, it may be a third party, it may be a recovery agents. So to stop that, we have some check boxes, and we need to put some check boxes. Okay, if the information collected from the agencies and whatever the information you have not matching, you can put some checks. Okay, now the partnership is closed, clearing is done, callback is done, reversal is done, returns is done. Resetting clearance means that is kind of a write-off that is not done. So whatever is done, you put that and send to the customer again. Okay, so to send this, we are using a T code FPCY. So sending the information to the collection agencies. Okay, so based on that information, they can collect or they can release the customers. So this is the customization, how you are sending the letters and clearing the status. Okay, so mostly callback and callback region, collection agency details like their addresses and the submission status. These are the major stuff when we're sending the letter.